was it 8th grade, 7th grade, something like that when you moved to Mexico? I still remember because I was
After 8th grade, right
it was
before
after
ninth.
okay.
Yeah, because I finished ninth over there.
So it was 3 whole years that you were my
Yeah.
neighbor, which you lived 2 houses over from me, and I was devastated, dude. I still remember it was one of the hardest times in my life when you moved because we had become best friends, and I was friends with not just you but your whole entire family. You come from a family of you have 7 sisters, right? Or 8 sisters.
No, 7 sisters. Yeah, 7 sisters.
So you're one of 8, and it's all girls.
Yeah, well, 2 brothers that passed away when they were babies,
Okay.
and 1 sister. So there was
So
actually
technically
10
10.
total. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, I loved your entire family. All of your sisters are amazing. I had nicknames for all of them,
Yeah.
and I was a part of your family. And it was really hard when you moved away. I had a very hard time. I actually went through like a little phase of depression because I was so upset. And we kept in touch through the years. How long did you live in Mexico? Do you remember? Because you kind of went back and forth from that point.
Yeah.
So maybe if you could just
Well-
give me a timeline of like where you lived from there, how long, and then how did we end up meeting back up?
Well, yeah, like you said, we stayed in touch throughout the years. Yeah, we stayed in touch throughout the years. But so I moved after 8th, and then I think I lived there for about 5 years, and that's when I dropped out of high school. I finished 9th, 10th. Shoot, actually, I probably lived there for 3 years, and then dropped out of high school in 11th grade. I
Okay.
finished 11th grade. I never went to 12th.
High school dropout?
Yeah.
Woo!
After that, I moved. Where the hell? I'm trying to.
It was either Colorado or North Dakota.
It was Colorado. So I moved to Mexico, lived there for probably 4 years after Kansas, and then I went back to Colorado to start doing drywall construction.
Okay.
And then,
Why Colorado?
That's where my dad was at the time.
Okay.
So
And your dad he's a big construction guru. He's
Yeah.
always moving to wherever the hottest, newest city is at.
Yeah, and right now he's actually back in Denver again.
Wow.
So after Denver, I moved. Then that's when I moved to North Dakota, got into the oil fields, truck driving.
Crazy.
And
So what made you get into the oil fields? I'm just trying to take this one step at a time because it's so interesting, all of the different like jobs that you've had leading up to YouTube. So why did you move to North Dakota to drive trucks? Like how did that come about?
That's where it was like in 2011, right before the oil field peaked. And everybody was just all my relatives. That's what I mean by everybody. I have a huge family, and we kind of we've mostly followed each other to wherever like the work was, construction. And then one of our family members got into truck driving in the oil fields in North Dakota.
And you make a lot of money doing that.
Yeah,
a lot of money.
From not knowing how to drive a semi to getting your license, you instantly started getting paid like $30 an hour, and it took me like 2 weeks to get my license.
It's crazy.
Of course,
2 weeks. That's it.
Yeah, it took
Wow.
2 weeks.
Did you have to take like an online class, or what was that
It was
process like?
Not including probably the studying. I studied probably for a week beforehand, and then I went to take the written test, passed that, and I had to study for all this, and then after that I did the driving test and passed it first try.
And how was it driving a semi for the first time? Was it weird, or did you feel comfortable
The first
instantly?
time it was automatic, so it was actually kind of simple. I don't know. It was actually kind of simple for me. I caught onto it pretty fast.
I mean, you grew up with you can't compare an ATV to a semi, but you grew up with a lot of toys and machinery in Mexico, doing all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure it was just secondhand nature to you.
Yeah. It's easier to drive a stick shift semi than a car to me, probably. Just
Really?
Because you don't have to push the clutch into to shift.
Wow.
So it's
So how long did you do that for?
Probably 3 years, and then I went back to construction after the oil field tanked.
Okay.
Went back.
The
to
oil
construction.
fields tanked.
Yeah, they tanked I got there at the end. I moved to North Dakota around 2011 and was there for the peak around 2012, and then 2013 I think it started going down.
Okay. Because I remember I was gonna move up there with you, and I was gonna drive.
Thank God you didn't.
Because we had been friends the whole time. We had stayed in touch. I went and I stayed with you in Colorado when you were there, and we kept our relationship going. And I remember at the time that you were in North Dakota, when you were making a bunch of money in the oil fields, I was in a weird point in my life because I had just flunked out of community college 2 semesters in a row, and I wanted to move to Arizona because I wanted to go to a music school here because I wanted to be a producer. and it cost $18,000 because it was like a trade school. So it was like, 10 months long, 18 grand. And I couldn't afford it. I had no money. So you're like, come up to North Dakota and we'll make you some money. I was like, all right, I'm down. We had this whole plan where I was going to move to North Dakota and drive oil trucks with you. Can you imagine that story?
I wonder what would have happened,
Probably a lot of shit.
Probably. I mean, I still feel like it was inevitable to get into YouTube, maybe it would have just prolonged that journey.
Definitely.
Because I think you still would have gotten into it. I mean, you were already doing it at that time. It just wasn't successful, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing it not seriously. I was doing it more as a hobby at that time. I had like, probably 5 or 6 videos on my channel. DOS 1923.
Yeah.
It wasn't even Big Dots
remember
TV
that,
yet. So you're up in the oil fields for 3 years, and where did you go from there? Did you go back to Mexico, back to Colorado? I'm trying to think about what happened before we ended up kind of meeting back up.
And then after the oil fields, I went to Bismarck, North Dakota, which is like an hour away from the town I was driving in, and that's when my dad moved up there to start doing construction. So I went back to do construction with him because as the oil field started going down, and there was still like a job in it. I also personally had gotten sick of it and sick of living that life, showering once a week. So living out of a truck, eating gas station food. So I just
It's not a healthy lifestyle.
No, I would probably be dead now if I kept going.
Have a heart attack.
But so I wanted to just go do something more physical, and that's when I went back to drywall because the oil fields hadn't completely tanked yet. But after that, and then I started the YouTube channel in Bismarck, North Dakota. So
so let's get back to that. So I remember that you started in North Dakota, and why did we start? Because I know we had these conversations because I at that point had been living in Arizona for like 2 years, maybe one or 2 years. I had just started to get a little bit of buzz, and I remember us talking. I was like, dude, you got to start a YouTube channel.
Yeah, because I was going to visit. I'd go visit it was probably like when I was living in Bismarck. I went like twice a year, probably like 2 years in a row, I think. And it was the second time I think that because I remember when I had the epiphany, like for some reason I'd never thought about starting a channel until you simply just told me I should probably start one. And then I remember walking into the bathroom and being like, oh, like I remember peeing. It was a really profound epiphany. And I remember being like, oh wait, I could do that. I mean, that's what we did when we were a kid. It was just something natural. And
at the time, I'm like, dude, you got to start it. This is insane. Meanwhile, I have about 1,000 followers.
Yeah, I think it worked because we started out just doing it for fun, because
Exactly.
I was still doing drywall, but also doing that for fun on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And then
So we started doing it. About a year goes by. I'm in Arizona making videos. You're in North Dakota making videos, which that had to be so hard in North Dakota. There's not a lot of people there to begin with, so that had to be really challenging.
I would work Monday through Saturday on drywall, like 7 to 5. So after work on 5, I would just take a pair of changing clothes and I would just put some clothes on and go get a scene or two. After 5, like every day,
crazy.
to Walmart's, go down to the little river. And it was able to work, Gained like 10,000 subscribers off of that shout out that we did.
Yeah, because you came out to Arizona. We drove to San Diego. Me, you, Cody, and Chris, all 4 of us in my tiny Camaro. We drove so much fun. To San Diego, made a video, and it was actually hitting on girls as different stereotypes was the first collaboration that we did. And I remember I was like, this is my buddy Juan, he has a channel. And then we made a video for your channel. I shouted out that. Yep. And then it's been pretty much history ever since.
I remember you got me like 3,000 subs in like a day.
We were like, whoa.
And after that, went back to North Dakota. Was able to
kept grinding.
Got like after 10,000 subscribers, I believe I moved over to Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. And that's the crazy thing about what people don't understand. They think that YouTube is just so easy to start and that we don't work hard or anything. And the only people that I know that are successful on YouTube are the hardest workers that I've ever met in my life. So you're working, 10-hour days doing drywall. After that, you'd go and you'd get scenes at a grocery store, like you said, at a river area where there was people or whatever.
Yeah.
And it would take you probably a week to piece it together enough scenes to make a video.
Yeah.
And I was in the same boat. Me and Chris moved to Arizona together, and he had moved back when I was really getting the channel going. And I would go into grocery stores, and I would set up a camera on the shelf, and I would just stay in the frame. and make videos that way. And I would drive around for hours and hours and hours, going to grocery stores by myself, putting a camera on the shelf and filming. I'd even go to college campuses. I'd set up a tripod and I would just stay inside the frame because that's how hungry I was. That's how badly that's how badly I wanted to be successful. And I was willing to do whatever it would take. It would take me a week to make a video and film it by myself.
You remember that Watch My Stuff prank, that first video we
Yeah.
ever did for fun? That's what I don't even think it's up anymore, but
It's not.
That's what we were doing even then. You were setting the camera up and then we'd both walk into the scene.
It's insane.
That's
And now
crazy.
we have, both of us have multiple camera guys who are amazing at what they do. And sometimes I got to take a step back and just realize, how grateful I am for that and to not take that for granted, because where we started, that was so much harder. Whenever I get down on myself or I feel like unmotivated or anything, I'm like, dude, just think about 7 years ago what you were doing, how bad you wanted this. This is a walk in the park.
It was a fun journey. I've had fun along the way, but it's definitely like funner now.
It is, because in the midst of it, it's like you got to work 12 hours a day to be successful. You can't have fun. I didn't lose a lot of friends, but a lot of my friendships and relationships definitely took a hit because of how focused I was on the work. And that's something, looking back, like I realize, but also in the moment, I just wanted it so bad. That's, something I was willing to sacrifice.